Good evening. So last session we started discussing about React lifecycle hooks. Actually, we started about lifecycle hooks in class component. So in class component, three phases we discussed. One is mounting, another one is updating, another one unmount. What happens? We saw one example for that. Mounting phase, that means it is initializing the memory. Updating phase, it is identifying the changes. And unmounting phase, it is unloading, means it is unregistering all the registered methods and it is cleaning up the memory. Right. So in this, some important points are there. Some frequently asked questions are there. So what is difference between, I showed one example, you clearly understood, no? Right? I showed one example in the last session. Component mounts, unmounts, will mount, these points we explained. So what is difference between constructor and component, so will mount method. Because component will mount also initializes memory. Constructor also initializes memory. Then what is difference? Actually, constructor, what is difference is, here answer is actually constructor, technically, constructor configures the functionality, for component, configures the functionality for component at the time of creating component. At the time of creating component. That means constructor configures the functionality at the time of creating component. Actually, component will mount initializes functionality after component is created. After component is created, it defines the functionality when component is requested, not created. What constructor will do? Constructor defines the functionality to perform when component is created. And what will mount will do? It will define the functionality when component is requested, created and requested. Which one is first? Actually, created is first. Without created, you cannot request. That means component is created and component will mount is request. That means when you request, so that is actually, technically, when we want some actions to perform at the time of creating component, then we need to define on constructor. Like what? Actually, constructor defines actions like creating state. Am I right? What it will do? Actions like, constructor will define actions like creating state. It will create the state. Anything else? Be done. Binding events, na? Binding events to state. It is done in constructor. We used bind method, na? That means these kind of actions are performed. These type of actions are performed like this. So technically, what we have to do means, what constructor defines actions like creating the state, actions like binding events to the state. Creating state already you saw, binding events also you saw. Then what about will mount? Component will mount. Component will mount method defines actions like so already I explained one concept, actions like connecting with database. When you request, it wants to connect with an API, and when it is finished using unmount, then it will be disconnected. That means when connection should happen, not at the time of creating component, at the time of request. That means connecting with APIs, actions we do like connecting with API. So we do actions like, actually we do the actions like using the context. What is context? I will tell you in the next level. All such activities we do on component will mount. What is context? I will tell you in the next point. We will discuss about that in the next point. So in many interviews of experience level, so this question is very common, because a class component have component will mount. Then if you ask what is purpose of will mount, yeah, as per last session discussion, component will mount means it defines actions to perform, means it initializes memory. Constructor also initializes memory. Then what is difference? Constructor initializes memory at the time of creating component, and will mount is at the time of requesting the component. That is the basic difference. Okay.